about that was one of the best programs I've ever been in. So he has, speech therapy, occupational therapy, behavior therapy. I'm extremely lucky that I pushed and pushed and pushed and never took no for an answer to get my son help. I feel really sad for or parents that don't do that or don't have the resources to get their children diagnosed soon enough, because if they did get their child diagnosed early enough and got the services like my son did, the progress that my son made from February to June of '04, he went from jumping and flapping his arms and not saying a word to having some vocabulary of saying mom, to saying no, to being able to put a couple phrases together. And if it wasn't for the speech therapy and the occupational therapy and the hours a week of driving him places and having people come into my house who became my family. He's had the same occupational therapist for 6 years. And I call her regularly to ask for advice, to help me, because a 2-year-old needs different things than an 8-year-old. And as he grows and as he changes, his needs change. And you need constant help, you need constant intervention, you need constant things for him, and your support, your treatment team is your base. They are your rock. They do everything to help you. And if it wasn't for them, they are my second family. So.
My wife sometimes tells me that she feels like she raised my daughter as a single mother because I'm in the hospital all the time. I know you're a single mom.
Yes.
That puts an extra strain on you, and we get kind of caregiver burnout, flame out, fatigue. I think it's caregiver fatigue is the. So how do you take care of yourself with all these things that you need to do to drive around and get services, and what do you do to take care of yourself?
I'm very blessed with a very loving, wonderful family. I had 2 very supportive parents. Unfortunately, I lost my father about 15 months ago. My son's father passed away when he was 2, actually 3 days before he was officially diagnosed with autism. So it is extremely difficult to not have that partner to help you. Even though I have now just my mom who helps me, it's not the same as having somebody there to bounce things off of, to when he's having a meltdown or having a tantrum, to have somebody actually in the home. But I have wonderful brothers. I have 4 brothers who I can call anytime, who are very loving and love him to death. And my mom is a huge support for me. If it wasn't for her, I don't know how I would do it. Family is just huge. And I'm very blessed with wonderful friends who will come and babysit if I want to go to a meeting, or if I need to go get extra support somewhere, they will come over and sit with him. And then respite. There are wonderful services out there to give families needed support. There are what's called respite hours, and they are hours that are funded through like tri-counties, and you get so many hours a month, and that's kind of like babysitting hours that the state pays for, so that the parents can go, you can use them for whatever you want to use them for, and you can go through an agency and they will provide somebody to come to your house for care for your child, so you can go out and breathe, just get some time for yourself so that you can have that break that you need, because you do need that, because it does get to be very hard at times. Yeah.
Well, as a society, I was talking earlier about when Ronald Reagan closed down Camarillo State Mental Hospital and everybody returned to the house. And we really have to recognize as a society how important this caregiver fatigue is, and we're putting a lot of responsibility on parents, and elder care is the same kind of thing, where we're a generation that's really under a lot of stress and pressure. And then also moving some of the things the OT's been doing and teaching you how to do them. And so how does that work? How do they sit down and help you to come up to their level of skill? I talk about MD being mother's degree because slow but sure we have to get you guys up. So how did they go about training you and reinforcing some of the things?
A lot of it is participation in the therapy when it's happening. With the Kegel program, you have the therapy at the time. You also have parent ed, which is separate. You have your parent ed where you can go over with the therapist what's going on at the time. This is what the child is doing. They help give you support to say, okay, these are some tools that you can do to help when we're not here. And then there are times when they're actually working with the child where you're sitting with them. When my son was younger, it's not so much now that he's older, but when he was younger, I was there, the 10 hours a week or 12 hours a week that he had, I was there for every session. And I watched what they did so I would know how to model with him after they left. And that's what parents need to understand too, is that it does take a lot of work. You need to do the work at home. The therapists are only there for so many hours a week, and you're with your kid 24/7. And you need to continue to do what they're doing. So it's very important for you to be there, for you to watch what they're doing, and to learn how to model that for your child so that you can keep that up, so that you can keep that going. And I think that's one of the reasons why my son has done so well, not to pat myself on the back, but I really did a lot to continue that, to watch what the OT did and to follow through with that. And the follow through is very huge. When you have your son in therapy, the parents at home need to follow through, and then your child will be successful.
And then the communication side, you had a speech therapist as well, and so how we were using sign language, trying to imitate what they were doing with great apes way back when, it's 1960, 70. And so how did you initiate communication? How did they help you with that? How is he communicating with you now?
Now he communicates very well. Sometimes I can't get him to be quiet. In fact, Sharon, that was on here before, was the one who got my son to talk. Sometimes I curse her and wish that she didn't get him to talk. Initially, we did use some sign language because he did have kids, so we did use, more because he struggled so much with his speech. But we didn't want him to get stuck on sign language because then we were afraid he wouldn't use his speech. So some kids do need to do sign language. So we did incorporate that, but he did have a separate speech therapist. So a lot of times what we did is, instead of using, like you mentioned, the M&Ms earlier, if he did certain sounds or he wanted a certain thing, like a ball, then he would get the ball or he would get the car. So it is a reinforcer, but he would get the object that he wanted instead of candy or something different. So the speech therapist that I had at Regional Center, we kind of work the same way. So the team a lot of times is on the same page, which works really well. So I would do the same thing at home to get him to ask for milk, because he never pointed, he never said the things that he needed or wanted, which was very difficult. So at home, if he wanted the milk, he would have to either say or point or do something, and then he would be reinforced with getting what he wanted. So I didn't really do the whole sign language thing, because for us it was getting him to, he had very limited on sign language. We really wanted to get him to get to speak. So
I think that's
we did that.
We moved beyond sign language, and because we didn't realize that we could get kids to talk. What were his first words before they erupted into this unending stream of conversation?
I just reviewed a tape, and one of his first words was using his hands and saying ball. He said whoa and no, go. He said mom for the first time on Father's Day. It was the first time he ever said mom, but it took him April, May, June, 3 months, almost 4 months of working with the Kegel program to get him to say mom. It was very simple, go, no, one syllable words, and then just for just the beginning syllables to get him to talk. It was a very difficult process.
Well, I really appreciate what you've been through as a mom, and it's a continuous process with a big commitment. It's not 10 days of amoxicillin and the ear infection is over. I'm so happy that your family is drawn around you and given support, as the community has too, and then the support of the therapist too. And You can mention your pediatrician, so he doesn't have to, the developmental pediatrician who shall not remain nameless.
It's Dr. Stephen Kendall in Newbury Park. He is wonderful, the most wonderful man ever.
I think, and he really does know how to listen to moms, and he
listens. Awesome. He is the best gift ever. If he ever retires or anything, I will hurt him. He's wonderful. He listens to the kids. He is definitely was made to be a pediatrician. He listens to the parents. He gets down on the children's level, and I think that's what's important too. He gets down with the children, and my first pediatrician did not do that. He just walked in, walked out, did not listen, did not take the time to actually listen to what I was saying. And Dr. Kendall does that, and I think he really has an interest in the child, and that's what's important.